Welcome to Keynotes, a podcast series that brings you inspiring stories from successful people adding value to society. I'm always excited to meet my wonderful guests and talk to them about their journeys and practical advice that they want to share with people like you who want to grow in life. If you get value out of this podcast, please share it with your friends and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you're listening, as it will really help me in growing the community and helping others. If you want to tag me, I'm at Farrukh Talks on all socials. So without further ado, let's get on to the episode. Welcome to today's episode. We have a very interesting person with us. Her name is Farrukh Ahmed and she works in youth and youth development projects across UAE and Pakistan. And we'll talk to her about her journey and how she came to be doing these activities. So welcome Sophia, how are you?
All well, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And let's start from the beginning. Let's start where you were from your education years to how you came to be to the position that you are in.
I was an accidental accountant. I've come from a background of accountants. So I ended up doing chartered accountancy in Pakistan and worked for a couple of years in that field. And then I moved towards Khan Education, which is a development organization. And I realized that this was where my heart was. And I worked in financial accounting and management accounting within Khan, but I soon moved to social venture capital when I joined Acumen. And since that time, I have been proactively engaged in finance projects in philanthropy or social work and the development.
Okay, so let's pick up where you said that you were an accountant because your family was most of the family members were accountants. So that makes me think of one point, which is we're going to talk about giving back to the society in a bit, but how important do you think is it to give choices and options to kids as they grow up in their career? Because if, like you said, you were an accountant because your family has accountants, and now you're not pursuing accountancy as a career. So do you think that hampers a child's growth, and do you think we should be giving options and opportunities to our children rather than the cliched engineer and doctor and accountant kind of careers?
Certainly. What I think that in my particular case, there was not really a push towards being an accountant or an engineer or a doctor, at least with my circumstances. But my natural inclination was to emulate my dad or my uncles. And that sort of is very immature, and I guess from that age, when you decide something so early, you become probably more cliched than ever. What I feel is that from a young age, children should have a varied background. They should be given opportunities to follow different ways, to go into different fields, to know about different fields, and have a general education. And general education always gives you the base to actually then branch out in many areas. So you could be a musician, you should dabble in music. You could go into creative artistry, but you should have that opportunity earlier on in life. And perhaps if that opportunity is not given to you, then you might not know how to flourish in it later. So a general education as opposed to a specific education earlier on helps a child. I mean, that's what I think.
Right. Okay. So recently I also had a small thought on this, which I posted on my Instagram, which was about becoming a jack of some trades rather than a master of one. So although jack of all really doesn't add that much to a person's career, but maybe if with the given scenario that we are, with the given circumstances that we are living in, we need to be jack of some trades. And can I relate your point of having a generalized education into then furthering into developing multiple skills as a jack of some trades? So if a child is given an education in music, in science, a little bit of arts, and then later on he develops and he decides to go into, let's say, medicine, will the previous education help him or no?
Of course. I mean, you would want anyway that an individual is more holistic rather than just a specificist. And in that regard, you would want to hone their skills in various areas. You would want them to appreciate art, to appreciate music, to appreciate sport, physical activity, to appreciate nature and be able to work with plants, plant pots, and go into rivers and fish. You would want an education to be as general as possible for them to experience those things. You would not, a science student necessarily would not go into forestry. A person who has been in a forest from earlier on, has gone trekking, has seen plants up close and personal, has gone to marine life, has seen aquariums, has gone fishing, might naturally go into a fishing career. So what we want is, I would suggest that what is needed is more a person going into a general field to have experiences beyond the natural books that offer in school. And if you take the example of Pakistan, the books in Pakistan are just aligned to subject content, and it's so specific that children do
And
not.
50-year-old
And if you look at
content at
the
that.
local content, as the public education system offers nothing to open minds, and the mind will, if the mind is closed from that early an age, it will not flourish later on. It is only the very hardworking, very passionate, very focused, very creative person who might flourish. But you want more individuals flourishing rather than one or two or four coming out, breaking the stereotypes, breaking the shackles, and coming out.
Yeah, and I think a bigger problem is not having enough mentors. In fact, the even the concept of having mentors is unheard of in a day, in daily. If you talk to most of the kids growing up in college and university age, they have no idea of what to do with their lives because they've never had a mentor.
Exactly. In school, there's no concept of school counselors. We don't know what avenues are available within Pakistan in education. What are the skills that are needed within Pakistan or outside? There's mentorship is a very different concept that's not even developed in Pakistan. I think within TCF you have the re001 program, and that's possibly the largest school network in Pakistan, which offers a mentoring opportunity. I cannot say if it's a very effective program or not because I've not studied it, but I know people who have worked very deeply with it and within it. But the concept of counseling, I think, is somewhere that Pakistan really needs to invest in. Children need to know what kind of skill sets are needed in the future, what the existing skill gap is, and where the employment opportunities will be arising, which industry area needs what kind of skill sets, and that is where these sorts of facilities need to be available through multimedia, through virtual exchanges. I have no idea how they are going to do it today because I'm not talking about a private school, I'm not talking about elite school systems, I'm talking about millions of children who are currently in the education system of Pakistan, which could be something like 50 to 80 million children who have no idea how to choose careers, to see what their scope is. And this is where the real opportunity lies, I feel, for Pakistan, and where the gap is.
But then, what can we do as thought leaders, as influencers? We've gone through a lot through our childhood growing up. We have banged our heads on many walls to get to where we are today. What should we? What do you think we should do in this case? Can we be mentors? Should we take up dedicated mentees?
So there are two things to this. I mean, if you look at the category of young professionals, and I'm talking about individuals who are maybe above 28 years of age, and they're in professionals in engineering or sciences or arts or creative areas, they should definitely give back to Pakistan. I mean, to the youth of Pakistan, or to even school level or young adults in Pakistan. But do we have a mechanism where this information can be disseminated, and where is the access to these children? Do they have the access to reach you? Then what kind of content is being shared to them? Is there a support environment where they can be reached? Are there exchanges, youth exchanges, or community exchanges that can actually bring children and the mentees together? Technology can be a big asset here. You can use Skype, you can use you can use phones, podcasts to make children hear what's available. But then there has to be an environment where this information is sensitized and where the language barriers are broken, because most of these children Pakistan's major crisis being taught English subjects in a language that is not theirs, that is taught in English, and we all know that has failed the system. The teacher who teaches doesn't understand the language herself or himself, and the students who learn are not understanding the subject at all, and that is where the system has failed us completely. So the language of communication and what is communicated is what is more important. So when you have a mentee and a mentor, you might create an exchange, but then you also have to work on the medium of exchange, the content of it. And then of course, then you talk about children and you talk about individuals, then you have to have a system of checks and barriers.
Yeah.
And all that needs to be looked at. But yes, the opportunity exists. Pakistan is a country of 20 million children out of school. We're not even in school right now. You have about 80 million children who are in a process of education. So we've got primary, secondary, higher education, and the opportunity in education is massive, and so is the gap.
Right. So I do agree that we need to enable people back home in Pakistan, and we do have a lot of people who can pitch into this.
Yes.
But there's also something which is very close to my heart, being an overseas Pakistani living in UAE, is that we have a pretty big community of Pakistanis here.
Sure.
And we need to do something for them as well over here. I see a lot of gaps in these areas, and in guiding and connecting them together. And of course, like a mentor and mentee situation here also.
Yes.
And I want to do something for it. But then I say, when we talk about giving back to society, we cannot restrict ourselves, especially being overseas Pakistanis, to a certain community. So then what I believe in is creating a platform, and that's what I'm trying to do here, is to take lessons from people who have excelled or succeeded or an example or influencer in their relative field, gather information and then throw it out in the market for everybody to consume, right? So when we come to that part of giving back to the society, your focus has mainly been towards youth and youth related projects. Why did you choose youth and youth related projects?
Simply because I personally think that Pakistan has one big asset, and that's its youth. And if you do not do something
So your
about
focus
the youth,
is on Pakistani community here or back in Pakistan?
both ways.
Both ways.
And I think that it is for the expat who's sitting here or back home, who individuals who are in positions of thought leadership, they should now look at giving back to society. And what really has touched me and I've seen there's a lot of mature passion now that has come through, and that mature passion is with young boys and girls who are in universities, who want to do something more as well. So they are at the point where they're going to enter professional life, but they want to contribute back to the country. And this is where that potential and that passion you need to tap and focus on. And similarly, there are lots of young individuals here who are working, and they want to give back to the community as well. They want to work here, so they've got lots of initiatives like, you've got Sarah Rizvi, who with a pending meal initiative, and other people like her who are working in their respective backgrounds. There's obviously the Kissa Go official who's trying to create an environment where Urdu and Urdu culture and Urdu music and Urdu plays and poetry is given a fruition. And there's Aisha Imtiaz, who's curating art and Pakistani art and providing platforms. And to that, there's also Boulevard One, which is again a platform which is providing Pakistani dress designers and
these are all
Pakistani UAE based initiatives. So they are creating platforms for Pakistanis all over the world to come and showcase their work, or artists of Pakistan to be showcased here, or poets and film writers and filmmakers and musicians to actually come and work in Pakistan, in UAE, and showcase their talent here. So what we have such people who are giving back to the communities in their respective fields, and these opportunities are being created, and this needs to grow individually in Pakistan and organically here, and these platforms can really help Pakistanis worldwide, and the youth in particular, because youth need to see the access there to access other areas, access other geographies, to grow their markets, grow their ideas. And because they're working with younger people, you sort of understand that they will create more opportunities for them in the future.
Yeah, so linking to that, like I said, my platform is mainly, it's not community focused. It's overall this market, UAE market, looking at all nationalities. But I think the biggest gap that I have been able to realize is the lack of social networking and working as a community in 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 a spectrum and a different variety of nationalities working together. So what I'm trying to do on my part is to establish a platform which will create this environment of people connecting with each other. I think that's the biggest.
The cross pollination of ideas is the best thing.
It's the yes.
And I just feel that when you talk to other youth of different nationalities, different cultures, different languages, the ideas that come forward are phenomenal. Recently there was a tech camp global by the US embassy quite recently, and people came from India and Pakistan. These tech women came from India and Pakistan, and they collaborated quite recently, I think last year. And apparently what came across was that the ideas that were shared by these women and the collaborations and networks they made with each other from these nations, both Indian, Pakistan, and I'm not sure they're from other South Asian countries too, was phenomenal. I mean, they made friendships, they shared ideas, they understood how big the Indian market was versus Pakistani market, what kind of opportunities there exist, what kind of work was being done in India, and there was a lot of collaboration. And yesterday I saw that one Pakistani AI chatbot person, Sabah Khalid, talking via conference call and appearing as a panelist in an Indian-based menstrual hygiene conference. So these collaborations always help. They bring more ideas, they bring more opportunities, and there's a lot more growth for either side. So I just feel that when we work within communities of different cultures, then we can have a lot of potential of growth.
Okay, so let's come back to what we're talking about, having a community here and a cross pollination of ideas and cultures. So
and you said that point where जो ये हो नहीं पाता है.
Yeah. So that's what kills the ideas a lot of times, because of lack of availability of the right people at the right time. And that's what it requires a solid knowledge of network building and socializing. So what can we do about it specifically? And another thing related to especially the youth growing up and getting into their practical lives, how important do you think are odd jobs? Because it's difficult, especially here in this country, to get into odd jobs before you're officially into internships with after your undergraduate studies or during your undergrad studies.
Sure. What I feel that as individuals, the earlier you realize that you have to work towards some things is how it should be. That the opportunity of earning and to be able to sell your skill to get something in return, whatever that remuneration might be.
And that will also help in discovering yourself.
Yes. And in the West, it is quite easily encouraged that young children are able to work during summer holidays after the age of 12 or 14. I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's 12 in the West. And they're allowed to do a couple of hours per week towards summer jobs, which you might be working in an ice cream store or selling lemonade somewhere.
But that cannot happen here.
And and if that opportunity doesn't exist in UAE, then possibly it's time that must be reflected on that what these children can do to be of service to communities. It could be volunteer work at community centers. It could be there's Al Noor Foundation, and there's all kinds of very good foundations here that are working for social good. So there could be volunteer programs, and they allow children as early as 12 or 14 years to give some times per week during the summer projects, holidays, to come and give back to the community. And and maybe they are remunerated, maybe they are not remunerated, maybe they are giving certificates for their labor, but or maybe they're giving credits for their education in
But
school.
you think remuneration is important to encourage them?
I do think that at the minimum remuneration it goes a long way in
Because kids and teenagers these days have a lot of
because right now times have changed.
and they have a lot of expenses.
Children do have expenses of their own. They need to.
They've got to have the latest phones and the
Yes,
latest
and
consoles.
they need to buy data at times.
Yeah.
They need, and they some of them are leading their own podcasts. Some of them are having doing influencers. Some of them have other avenues. So it's not as if they do not know that streams of income exist for them even at this stage. They know about property on the internet. They know about creating content. They are vastly more talented and aware of the surroundings than possibly people were
Like us.
our peers or we were at that time. So we should not leave this talent go waste. I mean, they will find their ways. They will know how to. They should be able to open accounts, open a pen pal account, open. They should know how to use the resources available to them and be able to use the resources available to them. They're into gaming. I mean, I know children are in gaming. They're playing games at a professional level as well.
And they want to have YouTube channels for the games.
Exactly. So these sure, the environment should be safe. We need to talk about online safety, online predators. We know we should have barriers around that, checks and balances in place. Even in social settings, if they're allowed to work in a social setting, then obviously you need safe environment for the children. But having said that, the idea is that these opportunities should be shared now.
Okay, if a person has limited resources, what would you recommend to be their first priority or preference? Is it going to be education or hands-on experience or working for somebody, even if it is without a remuneration, for somebody who can help them grow? What would you prefer or advise to young people?
For anybody under 20, I would say that the best thing they could do for themselves is to depend on knowledge and gathering knowledge. I'm not talking about a degree because I don't know. Degrees are now quite fluid right now in the changing times when everything is changing so quickly and everything is moving to. There's lots of information available online. There are a lot of online degrees. You've got MIT and Harvard resources online. You've got online degrees. So that part I'm fluid. I'm just saying that children need to be focused on focused on knowledge gathering, and if you gather knowledge, you sort of go into a mode that allows you to absorb knowledge for life, and then you'll be lifelong learners. And anybody who's a lifelong learner can adapt very quickly to changing circumstances, as opposed to somebody who tries to achieve something with a degree or with a course. So you need to be more flexible towards knowledge gathering and absorbing, and that is one. Second, to build networks. Yeah.
Because networking really helps, right?
To have networks that enable you towards whatever. So a network might be a mentoring network, could be a voluntary network, could be sports-based, physical education needs. But to have networks online and offline that make your community wider and allows you to absorb newer ideas rather than just stick to whatever is available in the resources of school or college or community that is offered to you. So you have to grow your communities, and that only comes through networks.
Okay, you have done tremendous work in terms of helping people, supporting people, but do you have a sort of a criteria, or do you look at do you have a priority list to fund projects? If people come to you and ask for different requirements, what questions would you ask? How would you verify, or what would be your go-to projects to fund?
So I hardly ever fund projects of people that come to me. This is one criteria I never I never indulge in. If you're coming to me for funds, I have no funds to give. I find people that I find are innovators, are eager learners, are dreamers. I invest in people. So if I like somebody who has shows promise of changing something, for be it for social good, be it for innovation, be it for talent, I follow those people. I build relationships with those people, and when I build that relationship, I then decide. Because when the relationship grows that far, we will come to a confidence level that allows us to work together, to collaborate together. So a school that is in Pegwal in Upper Punjab, where you build a relationship with a school principal that you liked, and then you ended up encouraging them to create a purpose-built building on a donated piece of land that they arranged themselves, to create a building that has a massive proper school in that particular area, which is had an underserved market. And it could be talking to an educator like the education specialist like Nada Naviwala, and being encouraged by her research, and then working with her to create a project that was then funded a particular need at TCF that you felt particularly inclined towards. So it could be something as varied as that. I only work with people that I find promise in, and that's the only thing. I will not fund, I will not create funds. There are no funds. I sort of create a network of a circle of knowledge where people can
And then
learn.
you track their progress.
I do.
You track their progress to make sure that
The metrics are tracked, that
Yeah.
there's an agreed upon metrics that X and Y will
it has to be a reporting framework.
Yes, there has to
Okay.
be. And it all goes under an organization or that called the Pakistan Talent Fund. And the Pakistan Talent Fund is backed by certain individuals who are like-minded and who want to create opportunities for talented individuals in Pakistan or outside Pakistan. And the idea is to give them legs, so be it opening doors for them to meet more innovators, meet funders, meet financiers, meet technical people,
Any kind of
legal or other, and that circle helps them to move a little bit forward ahead than that they might need at that particular time. And one other aspect of Pakistan Talent Fund is creating scholarships for higher education students. So it could be a London graduate, it could be somebody going abroad, it could be somebody who wants to do a course abroad, or has been a young innovator who has been invited to a tech conference abroad, or a creative arts conference abroad, and does not have the funds to go for this. So all that comes within the Pakistan Talent Fund. It also has another area that has not been explored a lot, is the gifted and talented children's program, where gifted and talented children will be put into a direct contact with a mentor, be a musician for example, and then they go through the legs of being developed and their talent further increased and given the groundwork, it's paid work laid for them to develop the talent. But that is
and
still
also
part.
and also do you help in creating opportunities for them in the market once they reach a certain level that you have maybe have as a metric, and then when they reach that point you want to let them out in the market and see how they perform?
The foundation at least does not have a particular program where they would actually launch a particular talent, because it could be a science-based talent as well. It could be somebody who's a a mind who has a mathematical brain, and that child needs to go into some kinds of activity that is beyond the ones that are offered at school. So you want them to work at a higher level at math. So we've not thought it out through, but I'm sure the idea is to give them the opportunity to access further grounds of learning or opportunities that would further enhance these children's abilities. So yeah.
Makes sense. That's a great thing. Last thing that I want to know from you is, out of all your ventures, of all your projects that you've been involved in, and you've been doing a lot for a very long time, which one was the closest to your heart and why?
There was a tech program that I have been in, very closely aligned for about 2 years. It was a Women in Tech Pakistan project. It was very, very dear to me. And it's something that I aligned on a very passionate level with that community and with that group and with the founder as well. And I would say that to see it grow and see it, the projects coming out of that program has been for sure one of the biggest and the closest to my heart in all these years of working.
How long has that project been going on?
This was founded by Faiza Yusuf. It has been on for a couple of years. I'm not aligned to it right now, but yes, I think it's doing wonderful work now. It has
Faiza does a lot of good
Girls
work.
Pakistan and some other things that they've launched out of that. So it's pretty fantastic now. I'm working more closely with another tech girl, Sabah Khalid, who is founder of Raji and Aurat Raj. And yeah, let's see how far that goes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for your time. It was lovely talking to you, and
Thank you for having me.
I hope this continues, and wherever we can help, anybody can help. People can reach out to you through your Twitter.
Yes.
We'll share your Twitter profile as well. They can reach out to you and help in developing community and reaching out to the right kind of people to connect with the right kind of talent.
Thank you so much.
That's the goal. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.